Your fire is dying. Not out yet, just a bed of orange going duller by the second under sheets of rain that won't stop. And you've already tried everything you know, piling on damp wood, cupping your hands around it, breathing into it until you're dizzy. It goes out anyway. And now you're sitting in the dark with wet hands and no flame, and here's the part that should terrify you. You have no idea how to make a new one. Not you forgot the lighter. You have never, in your entire life, watched anyone create fire from nothing. You've only ever seen it kept, carried, protected, passed from one fire to the next. That's not a hypothetical. For most of the time humans have used fire, that was simply reality. Today, fire is a button, a lighter, a match, a stove igniter, something you buy for $1 and never think about again. But inventing fire isn't really one invention. It's two, separated by an almost unbelievable stretch of time. First, humans learned to steal fire and keep it alive. Only much later did they figure out how to make it from absolutely nothing. So let's ask the actual question properly. Not when did humans get fire, how did they get it, and how long did it take before they could make their own? Start with the part nobody thinks about. Before you can control fire, fire has to already exist somewhere for you to take it from. Humans didn't spark the first flame. The planet did. Right now, somewhere on Earth, lightning is striking the ground roughly 44 times every single second, according to NASA's estimates. And a share of those strikes hit dry grass, dead trees, or drought-cracked brush and start burning. Volcanic activity ignites fires too. So does something stranger. In New South Wales, Australia, there's a place called Burning Mountain where a coal seam underground has been smoldering continuously for roughly 6,000 years, started naturally, still going. Fire, in other words, was never scarce on a planet like this one. It was just unpredictable, dangerous, and, if you were an early hominin standing near a lightning-struck tree, terrifying enough to run from rather than toward. So here's the actual first invention. Someone, at some point, ran toward it instead. The earliest strong evidence we have for that comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, where archaeologists found layers of ash and burned bone fragments dating back roughly 1 million years, deep enough inside the cave that a natural wildfire couldn't have reached it by accident. Something, or someone, carried fire in. Then, at a site called Gesher Benot Yaakov in Israel, researchers found burned flint and wood clustered in the same specific spots across many different occupation layers, dated to around 790,000 years ago. Exactly what you'd expect if the same hearth location got used again and again. Not a one-off accident, but a habit. And later, at Kesem Cave, also in Israel, archaeologists uncovered a thick, ash-packed central hearth used repeatedly over an enormous span of time, roughly 300,000 to 400,000 years ago, sitting right in the middle of the living space, the way a fireplace sits in the middle of a house. None of that required knowing how to make fire. It required something almost harder, never ever letting it die. Here's the thing that makes this stretch of history so wild. This keep it alive, never make it phase likely lasted several 100,000 years. Entire hominin lineages lived and died using fire every single day without a single one of them knowing how to strike a new flame from scratch. So how did that finally change? Two separate techniques, developed at different points using completely different physics. The first is friction. Rub two pieces of wood together fast enough, for long enough, and kinetic energy turns to heat in a tiny pile of ground-off wood dust until it glows into a coal, which you tip into dry tinder and coax into flame. It sounds simple. It's brutally hard to actually do, and because wood rots, archaeologists have a hard time dating its invention at all. The second method leaves better fossils, because it uses stone. Percussion fire works by striking certain minerals together hard enough to shear off a tiny hot spark that lands in tinder. Iron pyrite struck against flint does this well, and archaeologists found something suggestive at a French site called Pec de la Zaye, lumps of manganese dioxide, dated to roughly 50,000 years ago, worn and scraped in ways that hint at repeated use. Researchers who studied them in 2016 noted something clever in the chemistry. Manganese dioxide actually lowers the temperature at which tinder catches, meaning Neanderthals may have been engineering the tinder itself to catch sparks more easily. That's not an accident, that's a recipe. And here's a wrinkle that complicates the story. Even once some hominins had a fire-starting method, that doesn't mean they used it constantly. Archaeologists Denis Sandgaith and Harold Dibble studied Neanderthal sites in France, including Pec de la Zaye 4 and Roc de Marsal, and found something odd. Evidence of fire use dropped noticeably during the coldest stretches of the last ice age, exactly when you'd expect fire to matter most. Their argument is that Neanderthals there were still primarily capturing natural fire rather than reliably striking their own, and during brutal cold snaps, when lightning-sparked wildfires were rarer, fire itself may have simply gotten harder to find. It's a genuinely contested idea. Other researchers point to the manganese dioxide evidence as proof some populations had moved past that dependence entirely. The honest answer is that fire-making probably wasn't one light switch moment for our species. It was patchy, regional, lost and relearned, reliable in one valley and precarious in the next, for a very long time. And while that uncertainty played out, fire had already become something bigger than a survival tool, a resource groups could share, and sharing it meant something. Carrying a burning branch to a neighboring camp created an obligation, a connection, a reason to trust each other a little more. Even long after fire-making existed, borrowing a light from a neighbor's hearth stayed a normal human behavior across countless cultures, because making fire from scratch still takes real effort compared to grabbing a coal from a fire someone else already tends. And once humans had a real method for making fire on demand, the technology kept getting refined. Ancient Egyptian tomb art, dating to roughly 2500 BC, shows craftsmen using a bow drill, a fire drill wrapped in a cord attached to a bow, so pulling it back and forth spins the drill far faster than spinning it by hand ever could. Same friction principle, mechanically upgraded, and it shows up independently across multiple ancient cultures once the underlying idea clicks. And then there's Ötzi. When hikers found his frozen 5,300-year-old body in the Alps in 1991, tucked into his belt pouch was a complete fire-starting kit, tinder fungus, flint, and a lump of pyrite for striking sparks. 5,000 years after humans learned to make fire on demand, people were still carrying dedicated equipment for it everywhere they went, because losing your only flame source still meant hours of difficult, failure-prone work to get another one going. Here's what's genuinely remarkable once you zoom out, though. Fire-making wasn't invented once and spread from a single point. Friction fire and percussion fire both show up independently on nearly every inhabited continent, developed by populations with no contact with each other. That's not one invention. That's the same invention happening over and over, because once a species has spent hundreds of thousands of years depending entirely on fire it cannot create, the pressure to eventually solve that problem is universal. So go back to that image of you, alone, soaked, watching your last ember go gray in the rain. For most of the time humans have existed, that moment wasn't a survival show scenario. It was a catastrophe, with no fallback, because the knowledge to fix it hadn't been invented yet. Fire wasn't handed to humanity fully formed. It was captured first, by accident and by nerve. It was protected for hundreds of thousands of years, by people whose entire job was making sure it never went out. And only after all of that did someone, somewhere, more than once, figure out that fire had been hiding inside 2 dry sticks and a little patience the whole time. You carry a lighter in your pocket like it's nothing. It took your species roughly 1 million years to earn the right to stop being afraid of the dark.